back again. Pod 6, week 6. On a bit of a roll here. Well, we just had a quick chat off there, and I sent you a bit of a note earlier about one thing we've both had a lot of experience with, I suppose, over the years, but you're still coaching athletes and involved in it. So injuries. I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about injuries today and how we manage them, what you do for yours, what are your sort of main focus on your injuries, what have been your takeaways over the years, how much rest do you have, do you rest? I think it's one thing I do less of now with injuries. I don't rest much at all, and I've found it definitely beneficial. But anyway, what do you got? Injuries. You just mentioned off there that you've got an athlete with an injury at the moment.
Yeah, it's one of those how long's a piece of string conversations you have with
it is.
and this age-old thing that I say, and I find myself repeating it regularly now. You never know how far you can go till you've gone too far. Anyway, she was complaining of a bit of plantar fasciitis, and she's a 4.8 runner, but can sprint. And I said, listen, I just don't think you can train through it. It's one of those tendons that it's so critical to running. You actually need to rest and rehab. And she was like, no, I can punch through it. She got 100 meters into a run, and she's torn it.
Wow.
Yep.
Torn a plantar fasciitis or plantar fascia?
It's hard to
plantar fasciitis. Yeah.
I
don't know that I've ever heard of someone tearing one.
I've had two now.
Wow.
2 girls. And one's a 35-year-old athlete and a very good sprinter. And this woman and I know why she did it. She very rarely gets through a season without injury because she's one of those, she can't stop training. And she's had this progressive overload, and she does. This is the girl I told you went from Pan Pacs, won 8 gold medals, jumped in the car, raced down to Broadbeach, ran the beach mile, won that, and then she went to nationals in Sydney, won everything, 9 medals or something, flew to Perth, competed in all the surf life-saving championships, drove home from Perth, and then went straight back on that track again, park runs every weekend, wins everything, and I was like, slow down, you've just got to rest, and injury's not far away. No, Chris, I'm fine. Plantar tendon. So I just wrote the rehab program for her yesterday and sent it to her. But she's already trying. And I said, listen, just let it settle. Give it 48 hours to settle. Just ice every day and just let it settle. And she's already trying to do stuff. And I'm saying, I can't. By the way, this particular individual is well known on the coast for her inability. She's, by the way, in really, really intelligent person, way smarter than me, as they all are. But smart person doing dumb things.
Often the case, right?
Oh, why is it so common? They're really smart people, and even in the face of really good advice, still will do the opposite, and then will get injured and still won't learn. This has happened season after season after season. She just reaches these huge highs and then just crashes and self-destructs.
But I think it's an athlete problem, right?
It's an athlete problem.
We've all done it. I did it with my Achilles for years, just hobbled around for so long and just kept trying to run. But it's a classic overuse injury. I mean, plantar fasciitis.
100%. Yeah.
Anthony's got a similar thing at the moment. And he can't get rid of it. He thought he had some sort of heel spur because he's got massive heel pain.
Yeah.
And I did a bit of reading for him, and I said, I think it's, plantar fasciitis. And he's like, no, it's too much in the heel, blah, blah, blah. But he's gone and had it diagnosed now, and they said it is. But he's just ramping up too quickly. He was just, started to run hills because that's all he can do, and then run on the flat. And he just started to get ahead of himself, and it's always the case. But yeah, that's hard. It's hard to pull back as an athlete and actually want to rest. We've all gone through it. What's the plan?
In your purple patch.
The worst time. You just want to go that little bit more. Can I do that little bit more?
Yeah. Yeah. She had so many breakthroughs in terms of her 4.8 times. She broke 60. She's 51.
Yeah.
Running in the 50s, like 58, 59 for 400, running like 218
Yeah.
to 51-year-old. I mean, she's running 20 flat for parkrun, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. She's fab, and she's just one of these athletes that's good right across the board. 26 high for a 200, 12.9 for 100. I mean, there's nothing. She's in this purple bag. She's just banging records out and she's coming home with arms full of trophies.
Yeah.
But she's also an athlete that fiercely, which is actually a blessing and a curse, fiercely identifies with the sport as who she is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if she can't do it, she is in depression. She's a lost soul. And that's dangerous. And that's why she's now injured.
Oh, we know a few of those, right, through our career.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
And I had to completely retrain my mind to detach from what I did. Because if you don't do it and it gets taken away from you, you're in a hole.
And guess what? It all gets taken away at some point.
And it does. Everything.
Everything.
From the day you're born, what you're going to keep experiencing, even though people give you stuff like shelter, food, clothes, blah, blah, blah. But you spend the rest of your life watching things getting taken away from you.
Taken away, 100%.
Until the last thing.
Your hair gets taken away at some point.
Everything.
Your good looks.
Your looks, your this, and everything. And eventually your life. You're gone.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, isn't it? Like it's a really weird thing. But athletes are the worst. You know, they identify so strongly with that. And you see, I suppose it's a sad thing about so many athletes actually identify so much with their fame, particularly, you know, elite athletes, that they go off the rails so much, you know.
They do.
Drug use, alcohol abuse, you know, all gambling problems, all sorts of issues. So, yeah, it's a bit of a set.
Yeah. But they self-medicate, as you know, we and I've done it, you self-medicate. And some people choose drugs or alcohol or whatever it is. I chose track as a tool to find some peace, you know, and some solace in life. You find this little bubble that you sit in where nobody gets to you for a couple of hours, and you sit in it, and for that little period of time, you think you're happy.
Yeah,
you know, that's the illusion you create, and then you don't want to step out of it, because if you do, you have to face all the realities of your life, which for a lot of people they're not happy about. That sucks. So they just keep going back to the track. And I know I've got 2 athletes that do it now, and they're training 6 days a week because they don't want to go home.
Yeah.
And that's the bad side of it. That's the side that if you don't get your head around it and get on top of it, it actually will detract from not only your performance, but your life in general, because you will certainly get injured. And funnily enough, the 2 athletes that do it, one of them hasn't competed in 11 years because she's always injured. And the other one, his performances have just continually deteriorated because he's overtraining.
Yeah.
And he's been injured. He gets injured all the time. He's the guy at the track, you know, with the massage gun, lying on the track doing all these legs because of all the things that are wrong with him. Because he's already done a session that morning.
Yeah.
People are dumb. And by the way, really smart people, but you can't talk. It doesn't matter what you say. They literally put their hand up like that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me. They don't want to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people just, I don't know, the word comes to mind, uncoachable.
They are. And guess what? They're the 3 that, the one that tore a plantar tendon, she has 4 coaches. I'm just one of 4, you know, and the other 2 coach themselves.
Yeah, they just run around all over the place.
What a shock.
Yeah.
It's just, and you know what? And like I say, and I got a squatted like this of 24. And after she did this, and I had to carry her off the track. Right. I went over to the rest of them, and I was really grumpy and angry. And I pulled them all aside, and I said, "Have a look. Go and have a look over there, where she is now, and let this be a lesson to the lot of you. You need to figure this shit out and stop this rubbish about when I'm not performing, more training is required."
Yeah.
It's the opposite, and there's your example. Stop this nonsense. Like you can't, and I'm so sick of being right all the time. It's getting boring for me. because I'm always right. I'm never wrong. And I know that sounds kind of crazy when I say that, and people have been come saying now, I said, yep, I say it like a broken record. I'm telling people to back it off. Back it off. You have to run slower now to run faster later.
Yeah.
You don't run fast at every session. You've got to learn progression. You've got to learn to rest. You've got to learn some of these hardcore principles that I had to learn the hard way, and I'm trying to help you not learn it the hard way like I did. But you're not bloody listening, and you're listening.
I just don't think a lot of people can, unfortunately. I had this conversation with someone the other week about overtraining. We go through this period, particularly when you're a newer athlete and you haven't actually loaded your body that amount, and the fatigue is there, but it hasn't accumulated to the effect over a long period of time in your body that you can actually keep bouncing back.
You can.
And you feel like you're invincible.
You do.
I literally had this conversation the other week with someone, and then I was Anthony came over he's in Sydney at the moment. He came over on Sunday night. We watched the UFC, and we were chatting about the same thing. And I said, remember the days where you were just freaking out that you couldn't, prior to going to the Olympics, you just couldn't do enough training. Your plyometric training, your strength training, your endurance, your speed, your push training, blah, blah, blah. How do I fit it all in the week? You're trying to do everything. And then then he sent me a text one day to say, I'm that tired, I can't even walk up the stairs at the office. And I said, you're not training for the next 2 days anyway. So we had a couple of days off. We backed off a little bit. He came back after that and PB'd a clean, and then PB'd something else inside 7 days.
Yeah.
Purely because, and I said, it's evident your body just needs rest. But I mean, I can't speak either. I remember when I used to coach you guys, I would stop you guys from training but keep training myself, when I was hobbling around. Remember that day up in Queensland when I couldn't even walk and I was trying to warm up?
I do.
Your brain just gets to that point, and particularly when you've done a lot of work and you just want to compete, you've done all the work. I wrote a few notes here about my top things these days, particularly my age or our age, with my rehab now. And my number one thing I would actually focus on for me personally, if I've got an injury or I feel like I'm actually getting fatigued and I'm entering that injury zone, is my sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I just go straight to my sleep now. If my body's feeling like, oh, God, that hamstring's getting a bit of I started to get a slight tendinopathy the other week. I just make sure I'm getting loads of sleep and rehydrating. Like, I exaggerate my hydration. Yeah. I just make sure I've got water in my hand all day. And I think they're my two big go-tos straight away now, sleep and rehydration. Then I wrote down from just a straight rehab point of view, I start to use bands straight away. And I rehabbed my hamstring so quickly a few weeks ago with a tendinopathy, and I've been trying to help a buddy of mine over in Adelaide do the same thing by using bands. I just unloaded in terms of the volume, but I still trained. And I wrote here that I kept up my training. I had minimum rest, but I just unloaded that particular tendon. I used bands, I rehydrated loads, and I made sure I was getting loads of sleep.
For our sport and for track particularly, and when I know I'm entering that zone, and I have just recently, it happened to me as well because I was doing a lot of rabbiting and then trying to train as well. And I knew I was into progressive overload and I was getting some niggles and bits and pieces. So the first thing I do is immediately I just stop all track work. I stop all track work and go straight into intensive rehab. And intensive rehab for me means I do some hot and cold therapy. I do compression and massage. And then I get into the gym and do all my exercises. I do my rehab strength, hamstring, Achilles, calf, glute work. I do that, but without running. And then I can rehab myself within 72 hours. I feel great, but it's a combination of quite a few variables, and every one of them is critical. The exercises I do, critical. The massage I get, critical. My hot and cold compression work that I do at the recovery centre here, critical. So I combine all those three things together, and then I'm back up and running within the week, and I'm okay. But that's when I get progressive overload, and for me, as you can all remember in my career, hamstrings were always a thing for me. I seem to load my hamstrings really heavily when I sprint. Yeah,
for sure.
It's not uncommon for sprinters. But for me particularly, in the way I foot strike, and I'm very much, I can still generate quite a bit of force to ground, and that loads. So that's kind of that's my go-to all the time. I absolutely swear by a very, very good massage therapist. If you can find one, they can work wonders if they understand the sport and they're a good therapist. There's many out there that will just rub baby oil on you and sprinkle some flowers around the room, and you walk out and you think you feel great. You feel like you feel dreamy, but you're no better off. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's part of the problem, is just finding good practitioners in any of that space. I still like using a physio, and actually fortunate enough that my physio is a really good masseur as well. Just a bit expensive to go and get a massage from. Yeah. But I still will typically, if I've got something going on that, my knee was playing up the other week and I just wanted some reassurance, I just go and see the physio because I like the diagnosis. And it changes my mindset when I've got even though if I think, I don't think it's that bad, but I like getting that. And I think most injuries, I probably know how to rehab myself, but I like getting that diagnosis and more accurate diagnosis. Yeah. And I know in the past when I've had some really bad injuries, and even some physios haven't been able to diagnose. And I really respect this of any practitioner when they basically say to me, I remember Dave over in Manly said to me one day, I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Can you go and see Sharon and just get an MRI and then come back to me?
Correct, yeah.
I just want to get a little bit more detailed, information, and from someone with a bit more qualification than I have. And I'm like, it's such a great way to be. Like, don't try and tie it up and lock it up and be embarrassed about or feel that you need to tell this person that you know exactly what's going on. So, I still like going to the physio, get a good diagnosis, and then go off my own rehab way. And sometimes I'll go back and check in. Unfortunately, my physio is just up the road. And I'll go back and check in with him, and he'll just say, yeah, look, you're on the right track now. But, it's an interesting one. And I just think that so many people, they just don't do the work with rehab. My buddy in Adelaide at the moment, he's got...
90%, I would say. And just on that last point you made is in relation to scans, unless you've got, and I said this to this person yesterday, unless you've got a lot of experience with injury and you're confident about what you've done because you've had experience in it and you know how to fix it, then I recommend get a scan. Go get a scan so you know for sure. And then it directs you for your rehab more precisely.
Yeah, I agree. Too many people just, flip around for, months sometimes first and get no improvement, then finally go and get a scan, and then they realise, it's a lot worse than they thought it was, or they've been rehabbing the wrong way or whatever.
So when I wrote a rehab program yesterday, I said, let it settle. Let's see what it's like after 3, 5, and 7 days. And if there's absolutely no improvement, it says go and get a scan.
Yeah.
Don't wait, go find out what the extent of that damage is. And then we can but if it starts to drop to a dull ache and you're sensing improvement, and you can start to load it a little bit and get massage into it and some heat back into it and some movement and that, well, you may be able to rehab your way out of it without the scan, possibly. But if no improvement, you've got to find out what's going on. And I can, even though I have seen this before, and the last girl that did it, it actually popped. We heard this. It went like that. I was running behind her when it happened. And I went, yeah, wow. I thought it was hamstring. Because I've never seen a plantar tendon tear, ever. No. And when it popped, I went, oh. And when this other person yesterday, it made a sound as well, but just not quite as loud. And I thought it was hamstring as well. And then she grabbed the foot and I went, oh, it couldn't be. And it was. So anyway, we'll see how she goes this week. She sent me a message this morning and said she's hobbling around. But you just need to see how it settles.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would always recommend, because most people don't have experience, so get a scan. And then on the other thing, and then I put in big letters to her, I said, you must rehab 3 to 4 times a day. Go through your exercise. Go through this process. Be absolutely religious. If you want to heal, you've got to rehab every day. I'm really good at it. But I know every time I've got a guy who's got 2 shoulder issues and I'm saying, you didn't rehab today? And he's like, no. Yeah. You're not going to get better. They won't heal themselves. I said, do your rehab. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. And they don't do it.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
It is a problem, massive problem. I mean, I had the luxury after my shoulder surgery last year, and I still need to do a bit more now with all this high rocks training I'm doing. I've got a bit stiff, to be honest. But after that surgery, I was fortunate enough to live at a friend's place who is a physio, and they treated me every day for 4 weeks.
Yeah. So, and how quick do you heal?
How quick? I've seen other people that have said, 6 months later, I still can't lift my arm.
Yeah. So
4 weeks.
And that's why I say to people, you want to heal quick, rehab every day.
Yeah.
Morning, noon and night. 3 minimum, try and do 4.
And the physios have said to me time and time again, the physios I've known over the years, and Michael Vadavalu, who you met down in Melbourne.
Yeah, good.
Great physio. Vad used to say to us all the time, you have an injury, there's 168 hours in the week, you come to me and I see you for 45 minutes in that week. What do you think I can actually change in 45 minutes out of your entire week? Yeah. All this other time you've got for the rest of the week, I give you all these exercises, all this stuff to do. How much of it do you do? But then you come back to me for 45 minutes and want me to perform a miracle.
Yeah, fix it. And that's people's mentality.
It is.
Just walk in and go, just fix it. It just doesn't work like that. But people don't want to hear that. It's like when you tell fat people, listen, this might take a couple of years and you're going to have to eat well and do some exercise. And they're like, fuck, I don't want to hear that. And then you turn around and say, hey, guess what? You don't have to do anything. You can sit in front of Netflix and watch movies all day and eat pizza and just take this pill. And they're like, yeah, I'll have option B, please.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Ozempic, whatever it's called, the magic pill at the moment. But the other question I had, and I think I popped it on an email earlier too, was how you manage personally, mentally, and how you manage your athletes mentally. I think the mental struggle is actually once the physical part starts to settle down, right, you're in pain for 3, 5, 7 days, whatever. But then it's the mental struggle. And the mental struggle can be for a long time. I know with my Achilles problems, my mental struggle was years up and down. I'd prepare for meets and I'd be in really great shape, and then my Achilles would just start breaking down again. So I think the mental thing is a harder thing to actually overcome than the physical thing.
It is. The mental one's really hard, and it is hard for athletes because we put thousands of hours of effort into seconds for our event, for many of us. And that window is so small. And I have several conversations that I have with athletes to help them get through this. And some of them are as simple as a movie quote all the way into a conversation I had with a guy the other day about taking the wins. And I don't mean racing on a track and medals. I mean when you have a win training, take that win, celebrate that win. Don't focus on the negative. I had a guy, he had 8 runs to his session. He focused on one run that didn't go. All the rest were perfect. And one run, and that's the one he wanted to talk about. And I pulled him up on it. And I said, you do this all the time, you know what? And it's starting to wear off on me because I'm taking in your negativity about one run. I said, look at these other 7. And he's like, yeah, this. I said, no, I'm not tolerating anymore. Take your wins and celebrate them and be happy with what you've achieved because it is good. And don't keep focusing on the negative. This is someone that's not injured. And when we go to one of the injury things that I use all the time, it's that old, remember the movie Cool Runnings, bobsled team? I keep saying it, and I say, if you want to do this sport, which is track and field, get used to losing 99% of the time. You're going to lose. And if you win, if you're lucky enough to win a medal, there's another level for you to go to where you'll be flogged. And it comes back to that one line in the movie where John Candy's talking to the guy who was the driver. And he said, you know what? A gold medal is a wonderful thing. But if you're not good enough without it, you'll never be good enough with it. And I said, hold that thought for the rest of your athletic career because it's not about the medal, it's about the journey. Because we spend 99% of our time in training and 0.1%, if that, competing.
Yeah.
So this 100%. Is the process you need to enjoy. This is what you do. And be excited and happy and fall in love with this process. And if you do, you know what? You'll be a good athlete. You'll reach your potential. Whatever that is, you'll reach it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's to be celebrated. Now, if you can do that and you can grasp those concepts, you'll be okay. If you can't, you are going to be that miserable, grumpy athlete wandering around the track whinging about what they can't do or didn't achieve. That's you. And if you want that, knock yourself out. But you won't be hanging around me, and you won't be in this squad. So make your mind, you decide.
It's a life thing. You just have to enjoy the process of life, right? Every day. I've got this high rocks competition coming up, and I'm loving training, and I can feel mentally the pressure of committing to a time starting to creep in. Because I'm starting to look at comparable times for my age and other people and blah, blah, blah. But I'm also just trying to pull back and say, no, my main aim at the moment is to just enjoy the process leading up to it and go and enjoy the day and actually complete it. I think initially for me, if I can complete this thing I don't want to actually complete it walking. I want to complete it moving the entire time. Which will be an achievement because I think it's going to, be somewhere in the vicinity of 80 to 90 minutes of continuous, pretty hard work with a pretty high rate. So, but it's important to be able to step back and just enjoy that. Look, we won't stay too long today. I've actually got to get off and do some stuff. I just wanted to ask one more question about when you're doing your rehab, what's your thought on bands?
Yeah, I use them. Yeah, I do. But again, it does also depend on the type of injury. With this plantar injury, bands, yes, there's great exercises that need to be done with bands that really work. For hamstrings, glutes, bands, yep, all day, use them all the time. For particularly for isometric work and concentric and eccentric lifts. So that to rehab hamstrings, yep, bands work great because you can do that movement and full range of motion, and they're less riskier than weight.
Yeah, I think they're a great modality. I think given the fact that they actually progressively load and
Correct.
You can take that band, you can use a really small band and just by taking one step further away, you can actually add more load.
Yeah.
You can actually really control the load. So I think bands have been one of the best, I don't know how long they've actually been around, but one of the best inventions ever for rehabilitation. They're amazing.
Yeah. And I use bands for rehab, particularly on my hamstrings, all the time.
Yeah.
And Achilles, where I've got the band hooked around, my feet, and just using that for Achilles work.
Yeah.
Because you can adjust the load really easily.
Yeah.
So, bands for rehab, that's another thing that's a non-negotiable, I think, particularly in track. Use them all the time.
Yeah. All right, we might leave it there. We're kind of getting there 30 minutes. I can get off and do a few things, but good to catch up. Good few tips on rehab, and that's a wrap. Until next week.